There's a lot of innovation in the industry lately, which is exciting. There's a lot of new products hitting the market, and that takes a lot of work. It also takes a lot of strategic decision making, and those are steps that can't be skipped. Before placing your product on the shelf or telling your sales team about it, there's some really important factors that need to be considered. So let's dig in. Welcome to Constructive Insights. I'm really excited today about the topic that we're going to dig into. We've had a lot of brands coming to us recently with products that they want to get into the market, new innovations or enhancements, which is really exciting to see. There's a lot of innovation coming to this space, and there's a lot of brands out there that want to do more than they've done in the past. They want to, get outside of just making noise, and they want to make an impact, which is great to see, but it's interesting seeing this trend and also hearing the challenges that these brands are experiencing when it comes to bringing in these new products into the market. So what I thought would be interesting today is really digging into what we see as those top success factors when it comes to launching a new product into the building materials space. Because really, when it comes down to it, it's all about getting noticed, getting selected, and getting installed. And so making sure that you have the right elements in place and that your new products are set up for success is really critical when it comes to bringing new innovations to the market. So the first success factor I want to talk about, and really one of the very most important ones that I can't stress enough, is knowing your product market fit and especially your product differentiation. Ultimately, when it comes down to creating product strategies, good products solve unique problems. So it's all about starting with that research, digging into the market, understanding the trends, your audience, their needs, their pain points, what they're looking for to reap benefits, to reap gains, how they get their information, and who they're talking to that influences their decisions, what competitors are doing in the space, how not only they're bringing their products to market and the types of products that they have, obviously different variations, different sizes, colors, things like that, but more importantly, how they're positioning themselves, how they're talking about themselves, what are their value propositions, what does their positioning look like? Knowing all of those things is critical for then determining where your product fits in the mix and then how you're going to connect with your audience and solve a unique problem that they have. Because ultimately, differentiation is about designing your product to be inherently different from the products out there and available to your customers today. So it's narrowing in on those pain points, those maybe offerings that don't exist today or features that don't exist, that you can fill that gap and be that solution for them. And when you're nailing down that strategy, it's really also about thinking about where your growth is going to come from. So thinking about your audiences more from, are you thinking about current customers and increasing share of wallet and usage with them? Are you trying to steal share and take customers away from competitors who might be using the same product? Or are you trying to grow the market? So for example, are you trying to convince those who typically use vinyl or metal to change to wood, or, expand the types of projects that they take on? These are things that are also going to change how you differentiate and how you strategize your product launch. So the next critical success factor that I want to dig into is being able to take what we just talked about and translating that into compelling positioning and messaging so that you can connect with those ideal audiences. And so this is often where brands tend to struggle, is how do you take those strategic decisions that you've made, your value proposition, your points of difference, how do you take that and turn that into a compelling, creative message that's going to not only connect with your audience, but stand out from the sea of sameness and the noise that we know exists in this industry. So with that, there's also value in exploring a brand's personality. So when we're talking about the brand positioning and we're talking about establishing a unique presence for a product brand, Having a unique personality, so talking about their tone and manner in a different way, is often another way to differentiate in the industry. And so, with that, it's also important to think about your brand's presence and personality, because this is also a space that is really untapped in the building materials industry, is letting your personality show. I talked recently with our creative director, Mike Llewellyn, and, we've really focused on how there's a lot of gaps and opportunities in this industry to do more when it comes to bringing those creative messages to life and having stronger personalities that are going to set you apart. So what does that mean, Jen? What are you really saying here? So let's talk about some examples. So say you've identified your ideal audience as cost-conscious homeowners who do their own projects and who aren't afraid to get their hands dirty to see the results that they want. Taking on a personality for your product brand that is more around that approachability and maybe that scrappiness and that go-getter attitude is really going to take you further with connecting to your audiences and making whatever you're putting out there feel more relatable and more doable. And on the flip side, if you're talking to audiences, say, at the higher end of the industry, such as architects who are designing your products and specifying your products and really figuring out how to elevate the projects that they're putting together, taking on a tone that is more professional, more elite, more sophisticated might be the best way to go. But ultimately, it's about figuring out who your audience is and tailoring your product brand strategies and your positioning and your messaging to that audience in creative ways that are going to set you apart. All right, so let's get into the next success factor. So this is all about empowering sales teams. And I don't just mean giving them sell sheets when the product's been figured out. That is unfortunately one of the gaps that we often see, is bringing sales teams in too late. Your sales teams are a gold mine of information, and I can't stress enough how important it is for brands to bring them in early. Gain those insights, ask them the questions of what they're seeing, what they're experiencing through their sales channels, so that they can help to influence and strengthen the new products that we're bringing to market. So if sales and marketing is able to work in tandem from the beginning, that's when we see the most success and when we see really that alignment that helps to bring everyone along in the process. Then, when brands are ready to tell their story and bring that messaging to life and start to launch products into the market, teams are ready and they can help inform the assets and the materials that they're going to need in order to sell in those products and in order to drive results. And so the next success factor that I want to dig into is really around the planning, the launch planning itself, and making sure that you're looking at it from an omni-channel perspective. And so what I mean by that is making sure that you're looking at the full picture, that you're thinking about your audience's journey, that you're thinking about the experience that they take when they're making decisions about products in this space, and that you're hitting them at those touch points with the same story, the same message that has been created, and really helping to drive that decision making. So that means connecting your in-store, your online, your in-person, your sales conversations, making sure that everything is working together. And of course, it's about customizing that to your specific audiences, which can be tough because sometimes you're talking to builders and homeowners. You're talking to renovators and contractors and installers. You've got multiple audiences in this area. We talk about how decisions are often made in boardrooms and backyards. And so what is the journey that each unique audience is taking, and how can we tailor all of our communications, all of our kind of outreach to those individual groups to make it meaningful for them? And so the last thing that I'll leave you here with this success factor is really thinking beyond the launch. So it's not just about the initial buzz, the initial excitement, which is always so great, such a great feeling to get your product out there and have that buzz and be able to create that sizzle in the market. But then what? That's where a lot of brands tend to fall short. They look at the immediate launch and kind of forego the long term, forget about that planning that comes next. In order to keep that momentum, you need to be looking long term and figuring out how you're going to keep the attention that you've created. Okay, so the last success factor that I'm going to touch on today is all around being prepared with education, demonstration, and support. So when we talk about getting installed, it's really about making sure that beyond the purchase or even leading up to the purchase, you have the materials that are going to help get you installed, get you put on a building, get you spec'd, all of the things that are going to actually close the deal and keep your customers coming back. So successful brands here really are the ones that don't forget the customer after the purchase. So they're providing a fulsome experience with their product launch. So that could be installation education, that could be demos, could be tutorials, it could be case studies, or open lines of communication with their teams to make sure that the experience they have with their products are seamless. These post-purchase experiences are really what help to support that long-term brand loyalty and that brand love that we're looking for when it comes to new product innovations and new product launches. So kind of bringing this all together, I wanted to share a great example from one of our partners, Durkin Systems. Now, Durkin is very well known for bringing products to the market that help audiences build to a higher standard. Their products are premium and they're fantastic quality for those looking for better protection in the industry. So they came to us with the need to develop a new product strategy for a drain board that they were bringing to the market. And living up to their promise, this drain board is far above anything available in North America. And of course, they had the results and testing to prove it. So the differentiation was there. They had an innovative product that is able to drain more water and provide more durability than anything else available on the market. The challenge was convincing the market that this wasn't just another drain board. And so when we did our research and started this project, we started talking to distributors and we started talking to sales teams and understanding the challenges and the questions and the conversations that they were having with architects and specifiers. And so when we started this project, we dove into research and we wanted to really understand what the conversations were and what was driving decision making in the space. And the quote came up time after time, a drain board is just a drain board. So these products were really getting commoditized and really kind of thrown into the mix with little decision-making process going into them. And so working together with the Durkin team, we created a strategy that really elevated the new Delta Terax drain board and really took it to the next level. Through strategic messaging and positioning, we were able to connect with architects who were craving a solution like this, who value longevity and performance and wanted more for their projects. And ultimately, we were able to drive the results the brand was looking for and convince audiences that the product is below the surface but above the rest, which was a huge success for the team. And so what made that work so successful, and really what's behind the success of most product launches today, is that brands are putting in the homework. They're doing what they need to understand the market, to understand what competitors are doing, to find the gaps and the problems that they need to solve, and to create the strategies that are going to make an impact, not just noise. Ultimately, whether you have a product that is revolutionary and definitely different from what's out there, or if you have a product that is the same and has a lot of the same qualities, what's going to set you apart is doing that research from the beginning, making sure that you know your audience, you know what your competitors are doing, you know what the market's doing, and being able to shape your product around that. Because both products can see success, whether you have that clear differentiation and those features and benefits that are maybe far above what's out there, or if you have a product that has a lot of similarities but can better connect with a specific audience and the problems and the mindset that they have. Both can see success in the market, and both with the right strategies can get the results they're looking for. Thanks for tuning in to Constructive Insights, where we focus on digging into the content that's going to get you noticed, selected, and installed.